The Mandalorian and Grogu just made it to theater, and I brought them also into Planet Coaster 2. Yes, I did. And I brought them in via 2 flat rides and a shop area, including some arcades and a bit of souvenir shop. More about that later in the real-time part. I'm gonna guide you through a couple of time-lapse parts and just explaining what we're doing, because if you don't know me, I'm Rudy, and I'm well known for these kind of crazy builds in various games, but also in Planet Coaster. And usually what we do for these kind of movies, technically, it's more about the coaster experiences. And this time around, I thought, let's change things up a little and do a bit of a flat ride area instead. You can obviously download this as a blueprint. I'm going to put this into the Frontier Workshop, and you'll be able to download this right away, including some of the bits I built. You can also download as individual blueprints if you, for example, want to, spoiler, put the Razor Crest into your park. You can do so. The same goes for Grogu as a little 3D figure as well, and some other bits as well. So if you're interested, stick with me. I'm going to explain a couple of things, thoughts behind it, why I was doing this, and this is a very Disney-inspired thing. However, there is a little bit of a note. If you are interested in live streams or in general just seeing how I build, without it being sped up by 10 times, then I highly recommend checking out my Discord channel, because then you will be notified when I am live. And this is 3 times a week by now, and the streams have been really cool lately, and people have actually been saying, basically quotes in the chat were that this area turned out to be better than what Disney is doing with their Star Wars stuff, which I think is a very nice compliment. But I'll get to that in a minute, because the idea behind this Flatride area basically was really Disney-ish inspired. Anyways, here you can see the first skip forward. You can see a roundish tall wall behind the shop area, and you've by now most likely figured that the shop area looks like the Mandalorian helmet from above. I wanted to use that little styling element as one of the most iconic pieces from the Mandalorian, obviously, but I wanted to not make it, pun intended, not too much into your face. I wanted to make it a bit more subtle, so I wanted to ensure that the building itself mimics the kind of mask of, or like the helmet of, Mando himself, and there will be a couple more in your face kind of things. You can by now already tell, and you've potentially seen that from the thumbnail. Anyways, there are 3 major areas in this flat ride, Star Wars, Mandalorian, Grogu inspired area. We do have the Hoth or Huth inspired area where we are going to build like an AT-AT flat ride. We do have a swing over here. I was looking into a couple of these swinging rides in the game, and it would have been cool if there was one that does not swing totally, and I found one that is actually where you can even do just a quarter swing, which eventually is what we're doing at the end of the day. And that looks really cool, because it really looks like as if the AT-AT is walking. Basically, it's not walking. It looks almost like a broken down one that kind of still swings its leg, kind of. Which was the idea. Then we have the shop area, which is the Mando hat mimicking. And as you can see on the right-hand side, where I did put down a couple of little roots and stuff right now, this is going to be Grogu's kind of scene from the movie. I haven't seen the movie yet, spoiler, I don't know. But there is that one iconic scene from the trailer where Grogu is basically meditating on an log, which looks almost like on Dagobah. I mean, it could be any other, like, jungly, like swampy, jungly planet, but it looked very familiar to me, like as to where Yoda was training. So that could have been a Dagobah indeed, but again, it could have been any other one. Anyways, the idea is that I was using this flat right over here, which is mimicking that little baby pot. These things almost look like identical to the pot that Grogu is actually sitting in most of the seasons. And so I was like, let's take that one because it's so cool, and it would kind of create a very nice reference to it. And we will have the little Grogu as a figure on top. I did actually style the flat ride this time around quite heavily. In case you didn't know, in Planet Coaster 2, you can attach scenery items onto flat rides, and they will be animated with the ride. As you can see, the little soil pieces I'm putting down, they're actually animated with the ride. Skip forward. I finally found a way how that looks really good, and then I decided to cover most of the station also in bark pieces. We created like a fake little maintenance entrance over here to just add that little bit of realism, because I wanted to integrate that flat ride a bit more organic into the area. The queue area also is super nice because it kind of meanders through a little forest area that is also typically enclosed in a typical kind of Disney park-ish manner. There's like a very tall wall here mimicking like a bit of a peak forest area where like they're growing up onto a little bit of a stone and rocks and stuff, and then having a couple of nice trees in here to make that area feel very nice, to basically keep you in the immersion as much as possible. What I also did, but I will show you a bit better in the real-time part, I also made sure that the queue feels super organic. As you know, in this game you can literally create any kind of shape with the path you want to, but there still is a bit of a limitation to how the queues look and work. But you can always kind of go fenceless, and then you basically just create an area that is the queue. You just have to ensure that you don't put any pieces into the area where people actually walk. But other than that, I'm fairly happy with how that works. Now let's get to the star of the show, literally 50% of the name of the movie. That is Grogu over here, and I put myself the task to build Grogu as a 3D figure out of these simple art shapes. And yes, it did take an entire live stream. There was legit a live stream where we did only do this. It's just like 3.5 hours I was building on that thing. So I did cut quite a lot, and I did sped up here by 10 times. So you can tell how much work that was. So a little bit skip forward, as you can see. The shape also came into place nicely. The ears are still looking very wonky and weird, but eventually I found kind of a nice technique how to get certain things done. These little cloth pieces from the Viking set also came in super handy to create that little. What is that? Is that really a costume? It's not really. It's a piece of cloth that Grogu is wearing. Very iconic by now. But I just wanted to give it that one. And you can see the work on it is fairly insane. There's like a lot of pieces involved to make that thing look as good as it does at the end of the day. Does it mimic exactly Grogu? Well, it doesn't. But I think I came fairly close to as good as you can get, I guess. I'm not a 3D modeler, nor am I a character designer. I believe at this point the skill that I'm lacking is less of a skill building in this game, is more of a skill to understand how to create certain mimics in a figure and make sure you can translate the exact kind of cuteness into that build, which certainly is possible. I know a couple people in this game who are insane with 3D art shapes and like figures. They can, like, with lesser pieces than that, they still create more crazy and more very nice looking emotions in these figures, and very exact reminiscence of real life figures, characters, whatnot. But I'm still very proud of it. I'm still very proud of how that turned out to be looking. You'll see in real life, in the real-time part later, how good it's actually looking. I must admit also, what I'm really proud of is that this is in scale. So it might actually be a tiny bit too big, because at some point I was like increasing the size of Grogu a tiny bit to have a little bit more detail in these ears that you're just facing over here. Because I couldn't get any smaller with some of the other pieces, and that looked a bit weird if the ears were relatively seen too big for its head. So I opted then for a version that is a little bit bigger, but you can see the reference of the guest on the right hand side every now and then peeking in, so I understood that this is exactly what it is. There's a very cool pack on the workshop I highly recommend. There you can download a pack for only tiny pieces. It gives you like this palette of pieces, and you can definitely tell that these are the most smallest pieces in the game that you can scale also very small. Super helpful if you do these kind of little detail builds. And if I haven't said that already, and it's super important, obviously make sure to build that on a platform, because then you can mirror the things you're doing. And exactly the same I did for the Razor Crest, because apparently we are very lucky that the ship is also a very parallel build in itself. So I'm using that platform in the middle to just always build one side, and you can see on top of the screen the other side is built simultaneously on a mirrored way. Little heads up, some pieces in the game unfortunately have a wrong origin. What do I mean by that? Well, you can see the gizmo piece in what I'm using to advanced move the pieces normally is located in the origin of the piece, which would make it being mirrored perfectly fine. Some pieces, however, have the origin of that move movable item, movable connection point of the item, not to the center of the piece, but to one side, for example. And if you mirror that, it is not exactly mirrored. It's basically rotated and mirrored, and that is actually causing some issues if you do that, so you can't really use the mirror. It's not that many pieces, but unfortunately a couple of good looking pieces. You've seen that earlier on the Grogu build. I tried to use some of the wings of what used to being the rocket shape for one of the launch coasters. I think it's the Vekoma launch coaster that was styled like a rocket fighter jet kind of thing. One of these wings has its attachment points to the lower part side, because I believe the reason for that is to be more simply be able to click that to an existing vehicle and then have the wings attached like a wing would be. But for mirroring it, that just flips it the wrong side around. So that was a bit of an odd one. Anyways, I actually thought that Razor Crest is going to be a little bit more simple, but I did cut out most of it. This is also one of the things I did mostly off screen, because I did need to change a couple of these styles many times. You can see the entire upper side of the ship has changed to what it used to being a couple of seconds ago. I entirely redid the upper side of this ship 2 or 3 times until I was rather happy, and I must admit that the result is good. It's really good, and I called it a day at some point. But I have done the same ship in Planet Zoo about a year and a half ago, and that without mirroring. And frankly, that ship looked better than this one. I don't know why. I think I may have just been better that day, or, and this is the explanation I want to believe in, there are better metal pieces in Planet Zoo. There are more shiny pieces, and there are some really good pieces in Planet Zoo as for the shininess of metal. And as you can see over here, I was trying my best to kind of create my very own engine and so on, but no matter which iron piece or metal piece I used, none of these have a very nice glow or shininess. The old sci-fi pieces do have it, as you can see the in-game engine pieces of the sci-fi set, some of which have a very nice texture and a very nice shininess and a very nice like kind of what's that, brushed metal, or pieces like that one, as you can see over here. They're very nice, but most of the pieces with this nice texture, unfortunately enough, they are not like nice pieces to be carried around into the entire build. They're most likely very defined pieces, like this half round shape, or very big, bold kind of signs, or like even these engine pieces that come already with a lot of textures. And I would just love to have like a very simple rectangular piece that has a super nice texture to be used. And it may also be that at my own expectation to myself is incredibly high by now for these kind of builds. I've been doing so many Star Wars builds in the last couple of years. I've done the X-Wing a couple of times. I've done many builds. I did build Dagobah. I did build Mos Eisley like a couple times. I've been doing Cantina a couple times, and so on and so forth. So you know, my expectation to the level of detail I'm going to is rather high, and this is why I'm, especially about the cockpit, I'm not entirely sure, but it's fine, you know, for the build we are doing, considering that this is just a scenery item hovering above the souvenir shop. I already went way too much into detail anyways, but like that's just how I am, that's just how I do these things. And if I thought at the beginning, let's do a quick little, you know, a build here for the movie and for a flat ride, oh boy was I wrong, because usually the coasters I thought were taking longer, but that took almost as long. I have got material of about 30 hours now for the entire build, which is more than half of it has been done in live streams. And to be honest, yes, I'm much slower building on live streams because I get carried away, or how I call it, I am TikToking, because I'm always jumping onto some topics that you guys come up with in chat, and I will obviously continue doing this because it's so fun to just have the banter and chat in live stream. That's why we do this. But yeah, recommendation is go to my Discord channel, link is in the description, and you'll be able to find all the information you need for my live streams and when I'm streaming, where I'm streaming, and what we are doing. So I would appreciate that. But now it is time to hand you over into the Galaxy of Real-Time part. That is where the Real-Time Rudy is, you know, taking over and showcasing you how the final product, the final area looks like. into the real-time pad of this Mandalorian and Grogu build. Here you can see this is the final view on the area. We've got the humongous 8080 kind of flat ride design in here. There was the idea in chat that one leg is broken down, the other one is just, you know, swinging forth and back as if it's like broken, the mechanism in the knee isn't working anymore. And then to the right hand side you got the flat ride over here, as you can tell, where the people sit in these pods. I've got to talk about this design of the pods in a bit, because it didn't really quite turn out as I expected it to be, but it's fine, you know. And then we have got the star of the show, almost I want to say, but the star of the show is actually Grogu. As you can see down here, there's that little wonderful figure, and also the one meditating up there in the trees. Really love that one little detail. And I do love this wonderful kind of Razor Crest kind of thing over here. It looks really cool, especially with the engines on. If it turns around now, you can see there's also like a fake mechanism to, you know, as if it's going to be, you know, raised up and down the whole time. So there you can see that. It's pretty clean, to be honest. As for the geometrics you can do in game, it's as clean as I could it to be, you know. Could it make it whatever. I cannot English right now. Let's actually continue our little journey here. So basically on the right hand side there is the entrance to that forest, right? I'll be there in a second, but let's first of all check out this one, because that is rather simple. So if we go in here, you can see there's a little entrance sign, and then you go all the way through here, meander through some of the rocks, then you pass by through this area here where that like broken leg is. There's another one attached here. That is a very close call. Hello my friends. Choo! And then we go down here. There's a tiny bit of an area where you can dip below one of the feet. It might actually be a little bit too close, but you know, that's fine. And then you come into like a little bunker section. There's like an implied entrance to the rebellion bunker. It may be that they will be attacked by, you know, if that's Hoth. I don't know if it's Hoth or not, but like there is that in the trailer. There's that area with the 8080 in the snowy environment. I kind of almost expect that this might be Hoth or Huth. I'm not sure if he pronounced that correctly. And then you go around and you basically go onto the ride, which we are not going to fully ride, but you can see I also made sure that this is very nice over here with that like security netting. And then you can see that it's really cool, and you've got all these different views here of the signage, and like, yeah, I think it's really damn good. At the end of the day, it turned out to be looking really, really cool. And once we go to the other side, you can see that the other one is also pretty cool as well. So you got the entrance here where you sneak through that little tree, you dip into, and this is what I meant earlier when I said like a more like of a natural queue. It's very close here to the right. It all looks interconnected as if it's like one area. There's just like these little kind of fences in between, but you can really tell this is like one coherent area, other than in some of the builds where it looks a lot more two-staged. So kind of really like that. And if you continue walking through here, it's all very open and spacious, and then you come into this back little kind of almost like kettle pan area where you go forth and back in here, still looking very natural. You can see they're like glitching through here a little bit here and there, but I wanted to make these walls and fences as good as I could make them, so that they do look good. We even have like a little water feature here in the center that I fit in here. That was quite a hassle to put that in, but it looks also quite nice at the end. And then you go all the way around. There's a bit of a connection to the building. That you do have certain things like this sometimes, if that is the building connected to. I could have put like a rock in front of it, but I think it's fairly okay the way it is. And then you meander all the way in here, and then you are basically inside of the ride. We can actually skip that and go into the house itself. And this is very bare bone, but it still gets that Star Wars vibe across, which is all I wanted to. You have a couple of arcade machines here and there, some of these nice little displays. And then if you check over here, you can see there is like a very cool arcade machine. That one looks pretty good. That's very dressed up and styled. We've got a lot of seating opportunities. Then there is like a little shop area where you can grab some snacks and then deliver the same meal again. Is a little anecdote, a little hint to Cantina, obviously. And then down here you're basically in Mando's head. Very spare and bare bones, but at some point I needed to look at the pieces as well. We are at 7,800 somewhat pieces, so there's really not much left to put more detail in. Oh, and in your design, this one is actually, I changed that for the thumbnail. It's not sticking out here. In the final blueprint, this one is fixed. It's actually in the center. You don't see it moving up and down, just as a heads up. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of how that all turned out. and it's a really cool design of an area, I must admit. I've never really done this as a one-off build, and I must admit that this is really, really cool. You can plop this down into any of your parks. Let me just quickly show you how that is. So if we type in Mando, oh, actually, wait, hold on, is that not in here? Why is that not in here? So let's say filter applied, that's mine, and then there we have Grogu, but where's the... Do I have to go into... Maybe I have to put in like a Flatride, create custom, no, blueprints, and then is that in here maybe? Yeah, there you go. You got to find that in blueprints. Look at how expensive that is. It's 57,000. And then you grab that and you get that whole area. I'm in the wrong camera, by the way. There you go. This is the correct camera. And then you got to find yourself like a place where you can put it. That one looks good, but you do not want to raise that as high up, obviously, because you kind of want to go to the height of the entrance, which is somewhat like so, like that. You just have... Obviously, the easiest way is to look at the path pieces. This is where you put that, and then boom, here we go, and the whole area is in. Which is kind of cool that you also have the terraforming almost perfectly done, because the flat ride and the pathing will define the height, so you don't really need to do that much of terraforming. And so that's how it looks, and you can see it's basically the exact same way. And now just to prove that there is no stick-in of these things. Oh, it is. Ah, damn, I should have fixed that. Ah, this is because I saved this later on. Okay, I'm gonna fix this before I upload this. No worries about that. That was my mistake then. I thought it's gonna be fixed, but it's not. So I will eventually fix this little thing so it's not dipping out here. Because initially it was meant to be completely centered, you know, somewhat like this, because it's just up and down. So that is already the fix. If I forget about this, you guys will be able to just easily do that. So, you know, now it's in the middle. Now there shouldn't be much happening. So this is the idea about that one. But you got the idea how to place it all down. It's fairly okay. It's exactly how it should be. So yeah, I'll be getting that one. You should also be able to just about delete everything if you wanted to. Yeah, there you go. The only thing is that the terraforming stays as it goes. But yeah, that's that. And hopefully you enjoyed that as much as I did. It was definitely a different thing this time around, different approach, and I have to admit it turned out really, really great. So as like the last couple things for the video today, if you like that and you're new to the channel or you haven't subscribed yet because you're uncertain, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out as a creator, because that tells the easiest way YouTube that you appreciate the content. Apparently this is the easiest thing you can do to help a creator out, and I would really appreciate that, to continue doing these weird, over-the-top, cool kind of projects for you guys, which I really want to. I want to get into that more and more. I've got some really crazy ideas upcoming, so if you want to help and want to stick around to see these things, make sure to, you know, sub to the channel, and as I said earlier, make sure to join the Discord so you know when we are live streaming. Also, look at these guys just standing over here and having a little discussion. I rarely saw that happening. I love that. That's just such a nice little touch. Anyways, I'm gonna. Oh, there's other people joining that group actually. Oh, I really like that behavior. It's always like as if they have met up over here. God, really love that. Anyhow, I got distracted, but it's enough. We talked enough. I'm starting to jab over here. So have a good one, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and I talk to you in the next one. Until then, thank you so much, and bye.